In this class we're going to disaggregate the recruitment process into internal and external components. So we're going to look at the two parts of recruitment that are possible, internal and external. When a job vacancy arises, there are two methods that may be used to recruit staff, and these are clearly the internal and the external. Both these approaches have advantages and disadvantages, and we want to run through these in this session. So we'll start with the internal recruitment. Internal recruitment occurs when a vacancy arises and is filled from an employee within the business. So the business has a vacancy and an existing member of staff, an existing worker, is moved to fill the vacancy. An organisation may feel that a particular employee is suitable for a particular job role. For example, an employee may have additional training which makes them, or makes him or her I should say, perhaps more suitable for the job. So the organisation, the management in the organisation gets to know the workers, and they get to know the aptitudes of the workers and their capability. So when a vacancy arises, they're able to move the workers perhaps around to gain more efficiency by simply reallocating the workers to jobs and positions that suit the workers, and the workers will work better and feel better to be in that type of employment, that type of occupation. So the expertise of the management enables the management to reallocate the workforce to suit the interests, the skills and the abilities of the workforce, and thereby fostering good relationships within the business, fostering motivation and presumably more productivity. There are three types of internal sources of recruitment. There's transfers and promotions, and there's also re-employment. Perhaps looking at people who have left, which is all we can call ex-employment, people who were there in the past. Re-employment is taking in workers who have perhaps left or are still interested in the business and still has contact with the business, but are perhaps outside of the business at the moment, have left for various reasons. It could be re-employed. The ex-employed are the ones who have left for some considerable time but may be brought back because they live near the work, they have certain skills, certain abilities, they have proven themselves in the past, and they could be taken back onto the workforce. So we essentially rely on transfers and promotions. That's the general way internal recruitment tends to work. Now the methods for internal recruitment. Well, there are various methods that an organisation may use to advertise a vacancy. The use of intranets. Nowadays it's common to have intranets within the business, and it means that communications is facilitated by the use of terminals and networks and so on, and information's possible to disseminate information quite quickly and easily by the use of the internet. Clearly this depends on the size of the business. If it's a small business, there's no need for an intranet. Just simply talk to the staff and communicate with them directly about what the vacancy is and what's required and what the remuneration, the terms are, and so on. But if it's a larger business, then intranets may be a method of passing out information. It could just simply be putting a notice up in the notice board, or at staff meetings just indicating to the people present at the meeting that there is a vacancy and that the new person, when recruited, will have certain responsibilities and will work in certain areas. Word of mouth is important because getting the word around the organisation that there is an internal vacancy and that people who are currently dissatisfied with their role within the business may have an opportunity of moving to a more interesting occupation and a more interesting role, and they may want to be considered for this. So perhaps talking to individual members of staff and informal meetings and just general chats over the coffee machine, then that may be a way of getting the information around. Depending on the size of the organisation, there may be in-house magazines or newsletters, but smaller organisations would more rely on word of mouth and general meetings and passing the word round, whereas larger organisations may put it into newsletters and they may describe the job in some detail within the newsletters to see if there are any interested parties. Now, the methods for internal recruitment, well, it provides the employees with an opportunity for career progression through promotion, and this motivates the employees. So the internal method has got a big advantage because existing workers within the organisation see opportunities within the organisation and see opportunities arising perhaps all the time, different job roles, different experiences, and an opportunity for them to enrich their working experiences. And the organisation should be aware of the employees' capabilities. It's the role of HR to make sure that good records are kept about the employees' motivations, their qualifications, what they're doing to promote themselves, what their interests are, and so it's an opportunity for the organisation perhaps to move staff around internally to get a better fit between what the staff do and what the staff are interested in doing. Staff members will not need much training. That will tend to be familiar with the surroundings and the work environment. So it's a good method of filling positions. It means that staff can be moved upwards and moved around, and the staff are happy for this to happen because, as I said, it enriches their work experience. They feel that they have a new lease of life. They've got new responsibilities, new interests, and it's a better motivating experience. And it's certainly much cheaper and faster than the more traditional external methods of recruitment, going to agencies and writing out job descriptions and so on. This is a much faster and an easier way of doing it. However, there are disadvantages. When an internal member is moved from one occupation to another, of course it creates a vacancy where the person was before. So there's still a gap in the organisation which will have to be filled. So it means internally jobs can be filled by moving staff around, but there's still a gap. This gap where the staff were before will need to be filled. It may have caused some resentment among staff who were not promoted. When a promotion comes up within the organisation, perhaps many members of staff will want it. It's more salary, it's better working conditions, there are more perks associated with the position perhaps. So many members of staff may want that, but only one will get it, and therefore the others will be disappointed and they may resent this. They may feel it's very unfair. And also, the fact that the company is drawing from internal sources means that perhaps highly qualified external candidates won't be considered. And therefore, it's not the most efficient thing for the business to do. Even though the internal members of staff who are promoted will know the organisation and the culture of the business and the history of the business and the products and the customers and so on, it still may be better to have an external candidate who is even more efficient So it's not necessarily the most efficient route. By taking internal candidates, the ideas that the people are taking with them are going to be, in a sense, standard ideas. They're going to take the existing thinking of the business into the new position. Perhaps an external candidate will come in with new ideas, fresh ideas, more modern ways of doing the job and more modern ways of thinking about management and so on. And therefore, again, external candidates may be the best choice. So the internal way may be restricting the flow of ideas. Now the external recruitment, well, external recruitment is the opposite of internal, as you would expect. It involves posting job vacancies for candidates outside of the business. So it's not looking internally. The internal staff are not being considered, just external staff. Although some businesses will say it's advertised externally and internal candidates may apply also. So it's just simply opening it up. Sometimes the business may say they want an entirely new member of staff coming in from the outside and internal candidates will not be considered. So it depends really on what the business wants. It's suitable for organizations that are growing and need extra staff to meet the organization's goals and objectives. So it's looking at growth and it's looking at expanding the business and expanding it with external candidates who, as I said earlier, will have lots of new ideas and lots of new ways of thinking and working and so on. So it may promote the business faster than taking internal candidates. Now the methods used for external recruitment it could be the job centre. This could be services provided by the government. The government is keen to reduce unemployment, to get people into work, to make people more productive. And they offer services of trying to match workers from within the general population, people who are registered at the job centre, perhaps who are currently unemployed, match those with the requirements of industry. So by placing the job description with the job centre, there is an opportunity to recruit, and it's quite cheap to do this. In fact, I think it's a free service offered by the government. So the employers get access to employees in the semi-skilled, clerical and in manual jobs quite easily through the job centres. And in a sense the job centres are pre-selecting the candidates. So some of the work is done for the HR people within the organisation. The candidates who arrive have in a sense been pre-selected, have been filtered as appropriate by the job centres. So the employer simply posts a notice of a vacancy within the agency, and the agency then shortlists candidates on their register in terms of suitability for the job role. And that's an efficient way of recruiting. It could be that for higher end jobs with very specialist skills, perhaps in accountancy or in the IT field or in one of the more specialist areas, headhunters could be used. Headhunters are agencies or individuals who have specialist knowledge of the labour market and can more precisely match the requirements of the business with the expertise of people looking for jobs and looking to move. So they're specialist recruitment agencies which focus on employees with good career reputation. So they're very careful to select people who are skilled and reliable, professional and appropriate to the requirements that have been set out. It's a costly process, and the headhunters can charge the business quite a lot for this service. Universities and colleges, well, organisations use this approach to recruit graduates who have just left or will be leaving university fairly shortly. So it's a way of tapping into skills of individuals who are engaged in courses, and inappropriate courses, perhaps in the IT or engineering or chemicals or civil engineering, computing, whatever. So they're able to tap into individuals who have got up-to-date skills, albeit generic skills, skills that apply to a wide range of jobs and activities, but they can be then channeled within the organisation down to what the organisation wants specifically. Students have new ideas and enthusiasm as well. They're fresh blood, which would be good for the organisation. Having students coming in and questioning why is it done this way and why is it not done that way, instead of seeing that as a nuisance and as just something that students do, perhaps listening to the questions carefully could lead to further questioning and lead to productivity gains. Sometimes universities and colleges hold recruitment events on their campus to attract student attention. So there may be an employer fair, for example, held on the campus where employers come and talk to students. In the UK, this is sometimes known as the milk round, where employers go to a university within or a college within a given area, and all the other colleges and universities within that area send their students on a particular day, and they can meet the employers and get some literature and read up about the occupations and the opportunities that are coming up within those businesses, and get to ask questions about the business and so on. So the students will have a greater insight into the requirements of industry and commerce, and on the other side the representatives of the businesses who attend will start to identify particular individuals as being suitable for employment within their organisation. Another form of external recruitment is by advertisement or advertisement. It's the most popular form of recruitment. The employer tries to reach a wide audience, so it may be in the general press, it could be in the national press, one of the national newspapers perhaps, or it could be in a specialist magazine trying to recruit a particular type of worker. Perhaps in construction, it might be in one of the construction magazines, vacancy for a particular type of worker. So it's an attempt to try and recruit by using newspapers or posting a vacancy on a job site. It can happen also on the internet. There are specialist websites that recruit and facilitate employment, and there are some quite famous ones that are becoming large and important within the recruitment sector. So using the internet for recruitment is becoming increasingly important, and as I said earlier, it may be through the use of magazines, specialist magazines related to particular occupations. It could be also recruitment comes from recommendation from employees, for example by word of mouth. The employees say that they know someone who can do something that's appropriate for this particular task, and they recommend a particular individual. It's useful because the person who takes on the role, if they're recruited, will not want to let their friends down. So they will be reliable, and they will, generally speaking, try hard to fulfill the requirements of the job. So they can be recommended from a work colleague, and that's, as I said, quite common. The use of agencies. Well, this is a type of business which specialises in recruitment and the selection of candidates. So these are specialist recruitment agencies. They are businesses, in effect, that recruit individuals to work for others. They do a lot of the pre-selection. They interview the candidates, prepare the candidates, and make sure that the skills and aptitudes and competencies of the individuals are appropriate to the tasks that are being sought. They're often within specific sectors, such as within finance or business or education or health. So, generally speaking, these type of agencies tend to be sector orientated. They tend to look at, let's say, finance, and they will have accountants and financial expertise and bankers and insurance people on their lists, people who are interested in moving job or moving location or whatever. And should vacancies arise, they will then come between the two and try and negotiate employment and fill the job. But of course they're doing it for a fee. It's their business. They try to find permanent, temporary or interim employees. They don't necessarily go for big jobs all the time. They may go for temporary work. They may be able to provide temporary employment. Within the health sector, for example, many locum doctors may be provided on this basis. Specialist health workers may be employed on a day-to-day basis, and the agencies will recruit doctors, nurses, therapists of all types to work perhaps for a day within a given area, and in return will take their fee for finding that person and filling that requirement. And they, generally speaking, keep a register of appropriate individuals that they can draw on, and they know that these people are interested in perhaps part-time work or interim work, short-term work, and they can draw on those. And should a temporary vacancy arise, or a temporary requirement arise within a business or within the health sector, education sector, or whatever it is, should that vacancy arise, they're able to phone up the people from their register and try and fill that particular temporary vacancy. Generally speaking, they charge quite a high fee, but provide a fast and reliable service. Generally speaking, it does what is required of it. Now, the advantages of external recruitment, well, prevents any form of resentment developing amongst employees, such as favourites. When internal recruitment is used, one person is selected from a team perhaps, or a number of people who want the particular job. And when one person is selected, it causes resentment amongst the ones who are not selected. Well, if it's an external recruitment, then there is no resentment. It can bring in new ideas, skills, knowledge to the organisation, because people are coming in from outside and they have different perspectives. So it can lead to better ways of working and a more interesting working environment. And it enhances the culture and the dynamics of the workplace. It's a more interesting place to work because there are new ideas, new personalities coming through, and that makes it more interesting. It provides an incentive for internal staff to be competitive and to gain recognition so that they could be considered for future promotion. So instead of the business looking to the outside, they may look internally if one member of staff has developed significantly and has a lot of good ideas and is working hard. So it does create a climate of motivation within the existing workforce. The disadvantages of external recruitment, well, putting up vacancies is a costly and time-consuming process. It is timely and it does take time, I should say. It does take a lot of resource, a lot of thinking and working out the job description and interviewing and recruiting, and it's time-consuming. It's a longer process to fill the vacancy than simply recruiting internally, and that means if timing is important, there may be an issue. And the new employees will have to be inducted into the ways of working. There'll have to be training programs, and they'll have to be shown how to use existing facilities and clearly understand what the job role is. So again, it adds to costs. And there's always the feeling that the new employee will not fit in, and it could cause tensions within the workforce if the new person coming in, if their personality does not gel with the other people working in the office environment, for example, then there may be issues, and there could be even more problems caused by that. So there are disadvantages of external recruitment as well. So in this session we've looked at internal and external recruitment, and we looked at some of the issues posed by each of them. It's wise to go back over the video and just simply make some notes of the issues, the pros and cons of each type, and do perhaps some research online to pad these out. It's quite a straightforward topic, but and I think most of the main points are covered here. But nonetheless, it's wise to have a good set of notes in the area. That's all I'm going to do on this session, so I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.